thank you very much all for joining me for episode number 9 of Mantell Associates Network. I am joined today by Barbara Morgan, who is the General Manager of Lubrizol Corporation at the moment, where she's been for over 7 years there within the business. She is heading up a CDMO facility in the US, which looks after a group currently of over 90 employees. And of course, Barbara, you have been battling everything since it started with COVID, with life, with everything. So to start off with, it would be great if you could kind of talk me through life since COVID-19, being a GM of the business that you are a GM of, how everything's done, what you're doing, and kind of life, work, and really what your average day is looking like at the moment, if there is an average day.
Yeah, I would say, well, for one, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak, both with you and then also the outside world, whoever's listening out there. I love being able to talk to different people around the world and what they're experiencing. So for me, the average day, before COVID, I was traveling a ton. Lubrizol Life Science Health is a global company. And so I have groups, not only the CDMO group that you mentioned, but I have global groups around the world that work on excipients and nutraceuticals. And so I was traveling a ton. And I had already been managing remote. So I am based out of Cleveland. The site that we're speaking about, the CDMO site, is based in Bethlehem, PA. So I was there every other week, but I had already really been used to managing remote. And so for us in the beginning, the biggest thing was, how can we do this safely?
Yeah.
So, and Lubrizol itself is one of those companies that firmly believes if you take care of your people, the work gets done. So some of the things that we did in the very beginning was like, if you need to take off time because you have a family situation or you're trying to figure out what this means for you because of your health, we gave people just time off. So there was nothing against your vacation, anything like that. And we sorted out the safety of it. So in the beginning, I think we were at around 25% of people were there. Now we're closer to 75%. And if you can work at home, we're saying let's work at home to be safe. But for me, on my average day, I'm doing a lot of this, so
videos, I can imagine.
A ton, so there's a lot of just connecting with people, making sure everyone's doing okay, both from a physical and social and mental perspective, but also just making sure we're aligned on what's important and what we need to focus on. And so that's a big piece of my day is on the phone, talking to people, sometimes getting to talk to customers, which is my favorite thing, but you get to do less of that as you move up the chain. It's a dirty secret people don't tell you.
I love that. Thank you so much. And I guess it really has been a time period where I like what you said there about what's important in life, in work, and really focusing on it. And I guess one of the things of you being a leader at the moment and having to lead the business which you're leading is all of the challenges that have been coming left, right, center. What are some of the main challenges that you and the business have faced thus far from the pandemic? Because a lot of businesses, even pharmaceutical companies, have gone under, whereas you guys are thriving. How have you managed to do that, and what are the challenges that you've faced?
Yeah, so a big piece of the challenges are around uncertainty in itself. So you're navigating uncertainty and you're creating a path for yourself. And so I think a big piece of that is learning how to navigate uncertainty. But the market, especially for pharma, it's still the same, right? So and you see very much the whole world is kind of pinned on on the pharma market for solving this for us. And so while there have been some delays in R&D programs, which without a doubt there have, unless you're working on COVID, there have been delays in R&D programs. You want to make sure that you are continuing to move forward. So that's what we've been doing with our clients. For us, because we're a development house at heart, There were some fits and starts with some clients, like some clients funding
Mm.
was uncertain, some were full bore ahead. And so you learn to be flexible, but that's something we had always been, right?
Yeah.
So as if you're a CDMO, and if particularly if you're focused on development, which is what we're known for, every year your pipeline's different. So we were already really well suited to be adaptable and to be flexible for, changes. And
Yeah.
that certainly has been no different this time. I think what is layered onto this is just really making sure your people feel taken care of, and that you help everyone align and focus on the most important things, because there's a lot of noise out there right
Yeah,
now.
I know.
But yeah, so that's the biggest piece of it, helping people navigate through uncertainty and having flexibility. But we were lucky enough to already be incredibly flexible just because of the nature of our business.
Absolutely, and it's something I absolutely love. And with everything that's going on, I guess being flexible and with the Lubrizol business being focused on development, that is two things that makes you guys as an organisation unique.
Yeah,
What else
absolutely.
kind of separates you from your competitors and makes you unique as an organisation?
Yeah, one of the things that we talk about at our CDMO is we generalize in dosage forms, but we specialize in complex. So we handle a whole variety of dosage forms, from injectables to eye drops to implants. We do some oral, but mostly in the sterile space is where we're focused. But people tend to come to us with the more complex side of things. I would say the two biggest areas that we end up developing around are insoluble drug products, right? So if you look at what's out there in the pipeline, there's stats anywhere that 50 to 90% of what's out there is insoluble, so BCS class 2 or 4. And so we have a whole host of technologies that are, off the shelf technologies that
Yeah.
we know how to employ into formulation. So that's one piece. But then there's also the added layer of sterile products. And so we're able to do a lot of these things in sterile environments, and also able to translate them into first to clinic. And so that's a big hurdle, formulating for the clinic, formulating for being able to get it out there and get it in your patients to see if it's effective. So I would say that's where we're differentiated, is on being able to handle those complex developments. And our team loves it. My team, whenever we're saying, "Hey, we might work on a generic and this and that," and they're like, "Okay, but like, what is the generic?" Because they love the diversity, and they love that we're seeing new science constantly.
Amazing. And all of that is what has helped. And what you mentioned about your team loving that, it goes to show really how flexible you guys
Mm.
are as a business. The fact they can jump into that and then jump into that, and they get excited about working on these types of new projects, and really, really brilliant. I mean, something which I wanted to touch on with you was really from a personal standpoint. I mean, I
Yeah.
mentioned to you just before we went live about how when we got hit by this awful virus, how I was sitting there as a leader at the time of only 4 people, and now Mantell Associates is 17. That's still not quite the group that you've got.
Yeah.
And you're managing a far larger organization with far more responsibility than I do. And I just really wanted to gain an understanding of being a leader within the pharmaceutical industry. How have you adapted personally, both on a work side, physically, mentally, and family, work life? How have you adapted to everything, and how are you doing it?
Yeah, so thanks. That's a great question. And I think that's one that we should be asking more. The way I've adapted is the way I tend to do everything is I tend to be really authentic on areas that I'm struggling with personally, and areas where I think I'm thriving and moving through. And so I think for me, the biggest struggle has been I'm a huge extrovert. And so I am not getting that daily energy reboost from being with people. And so I tell my team, it's okay that you're struggling through this. You should be like,
Yeah, I love
um,
that. Love
and
that.
And I think that it's just acknowledging that, being empathetic with people, and you can do that and still be incredibly focused on what you need to get done. And so I think that's the biggest thing for me, is being authentic with my people, trusting them, checking in on them, and then also making sure that everyone is incredibly aligned. So for me, because I'm not getting that daily refresh with seeing people outside of my family, I've had to look to charge myself with other things. So I now have been playing more soccer with my daughter. I have been making all of them hug me so much more. I've
Um,
actually taken up. I've actually taken up trying to meditate daily, things that
wow.
are like telling my body, "Hey, this is giving some energy back to you." But it's not perfect. And I would tell you that some days I do better than others.
Mm.
But I think one of the ways that you build trust with your team is just being incredibly authentic. I will tell you, we've gotten more done during this time than I've ever seen us, which is
Wow.
amazing. It, I think it's allowed us to focus in some ways.
Mm.
And so I'm really incredibly proud of what the team has gotten done and all of the accomplishments that we've made in this time.
What is amazing about what you just said is the fact that you mentioned about meditation, being
Ooh,
authentic with your team. And it's something which is commonly so lost in development, manufacturing organization,
yeah.
in all types of companies. People are like, here's a job, do the job, get on with it, etc. And actually, we forget day to day that no one is liking this, like nobody. And the team needs reassurance, and people in businesses, clients as well, people you're going to be talking to daily, they're going to be having the same problems that we've got. Something which I've done, which I think is in line with the meditation part and keeping mentally there, and then also
Mm.
in terms of fitness that you've been doing, which is brilliant. I can't say the same on my side, but doing all of that, I think it helps you stay positive. And if we can be
Yeah.
positive with the teams that we're leading and what you've done, it is hugely amazing. Do you think that all of this is testing leaders across the world more now than ever before, especially the pharmaceutical industry, by the way?
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt, sure. Yes, you can't lead in the same way that you used to, in meaning like the in-person stuff isn't there anymore. The way we do work, in some ways, has really changed. So sure, it's testing people. I think one of the things, though, is if you help people rally around a common cause, it's amazing what you can get done. And if you build trust within your people, it's also amazing what you can get done. So it's all about the team around you. I mean, you know, to be a really impactful leader, it's not like what gets accomplished when you're there, it's what gets accomplished when you're gone. Like
Mm,
what you have empowered your teams to do, the alignment and collaboration you've built across your teams. And so I think one of the most important things leaders can do is to take care of your people. If
absolutely.
if people think that you care about them, and if you genuinely do
Mm,
care about your people, you are gonna be rewarded every single time. Like I've never had a case in which really took care of someone or really like was focused on another person and it didn't pay back in some way. So
love
my
that.
biggest advice for people is to go out there, look at your people, take care of them. And I always say for my team, I am here to feed resources for you and to clear the noise.
Mm,
You know what to do. Like they don't need me for that. So
love that.
I think that's you know that's a fallacy where it's like, oh, these strong leaders telling everyone what to do. That's not what it is. It's helping people feel supported, and that you're there to have their back, to feed resources to them, and to take care of them.
Amazing. That whole style of telling them what to do, how to do it, and stuff that really is slowly dying out. And there's a guy I follow online, a great leader called Simon Sinek,
Oh,
and he taught. Oh,
I'm
you
a
like
huge
him?
fan.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm a
huge
huge
fan.
fan.
And the way you were talking just then reminded me of like a lot of the things that I've heard him say, and it's so true about being just because you're leading the organization, you're still part of that team.
Oh
It
yeah.
is your responsibility, and everything you're saying is about good team spirit, being a coach. Would you actually say, by the way, that your team's got closer and stronger through this?
Yes, absolutely. In some ways, without a doubt, I think we know a lot more about each other's home lives, and we know a lot more about each other's quirks.
Yeah,
Um, and I think people's personalities really come out in these types of things. So sure, in some ways, we're closer than ever. You know, you kind of feel like you're going through a war together. So there's a bond that has been forged that I think all of us will carry with us for a long time. So if you love Simon Sinek, another person I've started really
yeah.
following is Frances Fry, who's of a similar vein. She came and spoke to our company earlier this year, and I just fell in love with her message on taking care of people. And
Amazing.
another person I just absolutely love is Adam Grant. Have you listened to any of his stuff?
I've
So,
never heard. I think I've seen his name. I've never listened to him directly, or Francis Fry either. Neither of them.
oh, she's amazing. She's
She's amazing.
absolutely amazing. And Adam Grant, I think he feeds my nerdy side. So he knows every stat around every study, and yeah, I think for me, I just really I enjoy that kind of stuff, and so I enjoy reading it. But you know, at the end of the day, when you're the best leader when you're just yourself.
Yeah.
So I am I'm a huge nerd. I love to read, and I think the best thing you can do is to be authentic, to be yourself, and help the teams align on what's important.
Amazing. Great advice. Great advice. And the future
Mm,
is I feel despite all of this, I mean, for some industries, it's not looking bright. For the pharmaceutical industry, CDMO industry, everything, it is looking bright. What are some of the changes that you see in the industry as a whole over the coming years? What are some of the challenges that you can foresee? How do you think the future of the industry looks?
yeah, well, so I am an optimist.
Mm,
There's a thing called the Stockdale paradox, where
mm,
you are based in the reality of that this is a really this is very tough. There are things that we have to overcome, but you have a unwavering opinion that things are always going to work out and that we'll always get to the other side of things. But the reality is that you know we are going to continue as a world to face diseases, and but I am so optimistic about the science that's coming out, and the you know some of the challenges that I think have unearthed during all of this is you're looking at our supply chains, and I think countries are realizing they don't have near as much in country as they did before. So I think there will be a bit of a focus on making sure your supply chain per country, that you really understand the essential medicines and that you're able to flow those in a better way. So I actually think that will lead to improvement. Um, you know, I think for us, and especially in the sterile product space, there's not enough manufacturing out there to suit the needs of tomorrow, which is flexible and modular. And so you're going to see a lot more of that coming online. For us, our commercial facility is just now coming online, and it's set up to do small batch, flexible, sterile products. And I think you're going to see a lot more sterile product manufacturing coming online. There's also a huge amount of biologics that are coming through,
big time.
and they're all a little different. So you're going to see a huge amount of investment in that as well. And you know, we're going to have to figure out some of these cold chain storage things, right? So
Yeah.
you see the vaccines coming through, and so the logistics and supply chain opportunities, I will say,
Mm,
are out there. So I think the future is bright. I've you know we know so much, and there's so much opportunity out there.
yeah.
So I think for everyone, one of the things though is, we have to make sure that we take care of the sanctity of science.
Mm.
Science is not a political issue. It's pretty black and white. And so um, I think that there's a long history of revering science, and I think that we'll continue to do that. So that's a little bit of it. The noise out there is more, and maybe I'm just conscious of it. I don't know. I just don't remember the same noise the past 10 years. So I think those are some of our challenges, but without a doubt, we've shown how as an industry we've risen to the occasion and we've blocked that, and we have been eye on the prize, and I think
Yeah.
we'll continue to do that.
Incredible. I mean, something which I picked up on, and what you just mentioned there was about protecting the science. And this is often what can happen when VC or PE firms invest in organizations and they want it done in a certain time frame. All of these great things, especially with vaccines, and you see a lot of it going on out in the US, across Europe at the moment. And it's like, hey, actually, hang on, it's got to be right because this can affect people's lives, and it is so sensitive, especially now. I guess you've given me a lot of insight into you as a person. You've got your nerdy side, but then you love humans as a whole and leadership. But what do you enjoy most about working within the pharmaceutical industry as a whole at the moment?
Um, yeah. So I love that I'm working on things that absolutely matter, right? So as we've seen, if a pandemic or Armageddon or something like that happened, the medicine would still matter. So I get a lot of joy and personal fulfillment on working on something that I think advances the world.
Yeah.
Um, so that for me is, from a moral standpoint, I love that I'm working on something that has a big impact. And for us, we get to work on some social things as well. So we've been working with the Gates Foundation and different foundations on supporting access to healthcare around products. And so I love that we get to do stuff like that. So we get to work on impact. And but then my nerdy side, the science that I get to see on a daily basis really revs me up. So I love it.
Love it.
I mean, I absolutely love it. As someone who is a continual learner, and it feeds that in me, where I learn something new every day from my team or from my customers, and I love that. So I just feel so fulfilled. I might feel a little exhausted at times,
That
but
I
I
understand.
but I feel so fulfilled, at the end of the day. And having taken on the nutraceutical group, I've also just realized there's so much more out there to learn. And I think that also kind of refreshed me this year as well.
Amazing. Speaking of exhausted, by the way, that's
Yes.
something which has I found a lot of people working from home are more tired now than ever before because they're actually
Yeah.
finding they can't switch off. You're doing
Yeah.
more work, which has actually meant a lot of businesses have actually improved their services exactly the way that you said you guys have been doing as
Yeah.
well. So absolutely incredible. How have you found the market in terms of new sales, new business development, and what type of ideas and strategies have Lubrizol and yourself come up with as an organization?
Yeah, so sales and business development, there's been a ton of interest in some pieces of the business. The sales has skyrocketed. In other pieces, you've seen a bit of a softening. I think one of the things that this has done is this has really accelerated being digital.
Mm.
Um, and just like most things, our CDMO actually never had a sales force out there. We always were doing digital. So in
Wow.
some ways, we were prepared for this. We were already
Born for
prepared
this.
for this. And so that's one of the things, though, that you're seeing more and more. One of the things that clinched the sale on
Mm.
CDMOs is tours of the facility. You can't do that in the same way. So we've been doing virtual tours, we've been doing videos. That adaptability and flexibility. I think that digital is going to be here to stay. Consumers like to get their information, and customers like to get their information differently.
Mm.
And so that has been one of the biggest changes in business development. We, from us on the CDMO side, for development programs, we had some soft months as people were trying to sort out, like, what does COVID mean for these development programs? Um, And you saw M&A soften in the pharma market as well. So there was some uncertainty there. But we have had a couple of super strong months, like pharma's revving back up. A lot of people know that these vaccines are coming. And so people are rallying back around all these different pharma programs. So we've had pieces of the businesses that have skyrocketed. We have pieces of the businesses that have softened. And so we've just had to adapt like we always do. But I do think one of the biggest things that have changed and will be here to stay is the digital outreach to customers.
Amazing. And with it being all kind of on the digital side now, when we
Mhm.
first started this conversation, you had mentioned that you are an extrovert, and I can definitely see that. And and you mentioned as well about you've been traveling everywhere because you're looking after
Yeah.
a group across the globe. Do you think that's going to happen again for you?
Um, Not in the same way.
Ah,
So, not in the same way. I think we have found we can do a lot more over video, but I think I will still be back out there traveling
yeah.
around the globe. In part, you need to be out there and take and see your people face to face. So I have teams that I work with in Europe, I have teams in India, and so I need to be out there and I need to see them. I need to make the connection. There's also no replacing actually being out there, meeting your customers, and seeing what healthcare looks like in different regions. So I think people get really isolated on thinking their healthcare is what healthcare is like for everyone else, and it's just not true. So I think that will continue, and I think that's really important because it shapes your perspectives, and your perspectives really shape your beliefs, and then that shapes your actions, right? So I think that will continue. I think it's within the US where I was doing a ton of traveling. I don't think I'll do as much of that.
Ah,
I will tell you though, if my boss would let me, I would be in my car right now out there to Bethlehem, to my team out there. Like I miss seeing my colleagues there, like no one's business. And so it's one of my first stops. I was
I love
even
that. And
thinking
you
tonight.
was
I was thinking last night. I was like, I wonder how how I can convince my boss that I'm really needed out there when I'm like, frankly, I'm not like.
what ideas can I come up with to get back out there? Oh, I absolutely love it. And everything about you really shines through, and also your leadership style does. Often leaders in businesses can be pushed because you've got KPIs, you've got
Mm,
deadlines, you've got
yeah.
everything. So it's hard to keep balance of everything. But what do you think is the secret to good
Mm,
leadership? And how would you define success as a leader, whether that's right now in your role or as a whole?
yeah. Okay. So that's a very multifaceted question.
Mm,
So there's this like you have to deliver results like without a
yeah.
doubt. If you're a leader and you don't deliver results, then you're not a very good leader. So, but your results can be more than financial results. So I think that's really important for people to keep in mind. So being a good leader, I think more than anything is being crystal clear with people around the focus and the alignment and the support they need to get those results achieved. I think, a legacy of a good leader is the talent they attract, the people that they develop, and what the business looks like when they leave. And it's not about you. like I, you
So
know,
true.
it's not, and it's really hard sometimes to remember that because everyone's asking you these questions, and and the biggest thing that you can do is align the people around you around where you guys are heading from a strategic standpoint and the results that need to be achieved. So I think that's the biggest thing. One thing I've also, and anyone will tell you, I have incredibly high standards. I push people, but I'm also really open to feedback, and feedback is your friend. So I ask for feedback all the time. I'm incredibly direct. um, and for some people, that's a little off-putting, and so I need to temper that for the person. And one thing that's huge for everyone that works with me is they know how much I believe in diversity and inclusion. And it's simply because diverse teams lead to better outcomes. But I will tell you, it's much harder to manage a really diverse team
Mm.
because, you have really different personalities around the table. But within all of that is where you get the best ideas, you get the best results. And it's worth, the corralling of opinions and the moving forward as a cohesive team. So as long as there's trust and everyone's rallied around a common cause, the diverse teams is a huge thing. I mean, for us, I think 50% of our leadership is women,
Wow, amazing.
and that's not very common in pharma. And it's something that we've really been very intentional about. But for diversity to work, you have to have inclusion.
Mm.
And so that's another thing. I want everyone to make sure that they're heard. It's not that we'll always all agree with each other, but people need to know that their opinions are valued.
Absolutely. Something you mentioned there was, I like 2 points. That it's not about you. There's a book I read years ago, How to Win Friends and Influence People, and it was like the ultimate message that I kind of took from it was actually nothing is really about you. It's about the people
Never.
you're dealing with and everything like that, which I absolutely love. And females in leadership positions, amazing to hear that Lubrizol has 50% females in the organization, and something leading a headhunting organization where
Mm,
we're often having people interviewing at businesses or seeing
yeah.
also why people are leaving businesses right now as well. We've actually had coming up a lot of those sort of questions asked.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Candidates who have had panel interviews with maybe 10 to 15 people and said, hang on, every single one of them was male. Are they not promoting that? And it's good that this conversation is going
Hmm.
on, and I hope it continues longer and longer and longer, and brilliant to hear the work that you guys are doing. I mean, just to kind of round it off, and
Sure.
thanks so much for everything, is what advice would you give to other business leaders right now to kind of optimize the crisis, get through it
Yeah.
for their businesses?
I I would tell them to do exactly what Lubrizol does. Take care of your people. It,
Mm,
without a doubt, don't be looking for cost cutting out there. Right now, it's all about taking care of your people. You have to optimize and right size for whatever business you're facing right now. And
yeah,
so I'm not naive, right? You can't be out there operating at a loss. I'm not saying that, but what I am saying is use this opportunity to really build trust with your people, take care of them, get to know them, use it as a time to really get aligned as a team to focus on what's important. And I think for everyone out there, if you take care of your team, that will reward you so much more than any other thing that you can do out there.
brilliant. And it's during a time period where teams are gonna appreciate every little thing more. Every human being rather is going to
Yeah.
appreciate everything more, because they will see the stresses that companies are under, that you're under, that I'm under, that we're all under. So to have that little bit of what you mentioned, empathy and being authentic as a person would be brilliant. But Barbara, thank you so much for
Sure,
coming on
absolutely.
today. It's
It was a
been brilliant
joy.
having you, and you're a great person. Thank you so much, and we will talk very, very soon. Okay.
Okay, thanks so
Thank
much.
you.